Hello everyone and welcome to today's Dux Soup webinar. I know your marketing host for today was going to be Jo Henderson, but she's unavailable. So you have me, Adam Osman, I'm the head of marketing at Dux Soup, and our speaker today is Giles Garnett, our fabulous head of professional services. Although today you might mistake him for Barry White, as he's got one of those bugs which is giving him quite a gruff, growly voice. Just a few quick housekeeping points before we start. This webinar is being recorded and the replay will be made available automatically after the webinar. I think that's probably the #1 question we get asked for every single webinar. And this is a business focused webinar. What we want to do is really give everyone a really good understanding of the different versions of Dux Soup. But it's not intended to be a deep dive into very specific technical aspects. But it's aimed at people who really want to understand the differences between the different plans and the key benefits of the 3 different Dux Soup plans, so you can decide which one of those particular plans and subscriptions is suitable for your particular requirements. So we'll cover the start to finish, everything from installing the plan you've chosen through to how to find prospects, how to manage LinkedIn outreach campaigns. And what we want to do in terms of today is give you a really good understanding of how to generate lists in LinkedIn and Sales Navigator. I was talking to someone today, and that was their first question: how do I build a list in Dux Soup? They then wanted to know, how do I create a targeted campaign strategy? So we were talking about things like drip campaigns, talking about how to enroll prospects into your campaign, and what do you want to do if you've suddenly got an extra couple of contacts you want to enroll into a particular campaign. We'll also share with you how to monitor your progress. It's really important to keep an eye on all of these campaigns that you've got going, so you can see anything that needs tweaking or needs attention. And we'll also look at what I think is really important, but how you connect Dux Soup with your other systems, such as a CRM system, to give you this the sort of seamless end-to-end sort of lead flow a lot of people are looking for. So we do have everyone on mute, but if you do have questions, please pop them in the box on the GoToWebinar platform. Anything that we can answer as we go, I will respond to. Anything specific for Giles about any aspects of what he's talked about, and we'll save those for a Q&A at the end. We've got plenty of time. And then just a reminder, the webinar is being recorded and it will automatically be emailed out. So without any further delay, I'll hand over to Giles.
Thanks, Adam, or Joe, shall I say. Thank you, and hello and good morning, good afternoon or good evening to you wherever you are in the world, and thank you once again for joining us in the latest of our Dux Soup webinars. My name is Giles, I'm head of professional services here at Dux Soup, and yeah, Adam is from our fabulous marketing team. As Adam's already pertained to, I'm going to talk about which Dux plan is the correct one for you. So if you're a new user of Dux Soup, an experienced user, or even maybe currently a non-user, hopefully there are some insights here for you. I won't talk about all the other stuff that Adam's already talked about around the housekeeping and stuff. Let's move straight on. A couple of little bits though before we get to the actual slides. Would you like a Dux Soup cap? Be the first to leave a review on G2 telling us how you use Dux Soup and why you like it. We'll be in touch. We've got some Dux Soup caps here. And if you're very quick now as well, you may also catch that we have a Black Friday offer, which is running until the end of November. The code is there on the screen and it gives you 20% off. There are also those 20% discounts are applicable across all of our versions of Dux Soup. So be aware of that. Go into our pricing page, try it out, put the code in there. You can see the text there. I'm sure that Adam will probably share that one as well in the chat during the course of the webinar as well. So be aware of that as well. Okay, so on to today's agenda. We're going to do a very quick, and please do excuse my voice, a very quick intro to Dux Soup, what it is. We're going to talk about the 3 different versions, the Pro, Turbo and the Cloud versions. The starting point for everybody, lists, we'll look at that, and then we'll look at our strategy and actions depending on which version you've got. Then we'll talk about monitoring and then integrations. I'm going to do predominantly slides to start with, and then we'll do all the demo stuff at the end so that you can actually see rather than flicking backwards and forwards. So we'll do the slides first, and then we'll actually go into the product, and we'll show you Pro, and then we'll show you Turbo, and then I'll show you Cloud as well. And then we'll see how much time we've got at the end to talk about integrations. A lot of this stuff I will be referring to some of our existing information that we've got available on our website. So hopefully Adam will ping some links into the chat box for everybody to capture those as well, to be able to get to those without having to make notes as I share the slides. So without further ado, there we go. What is Dux Soup? So Dux Soup is a Chrome extension which helps you to automate your lead generation activities in LinkedIn, and it works by mimicking human behavior on the platform and gives you the possibility to harness the power of LinkedIn by automating such actions as auto-visiting profiles, sending connection requests, sending emails, or even endorsing skills. You selected the list of prospects you want, and then you get Dux Soup to run your chosen activities against that, and that's across all of the 3 products. There are 3 different paid versions now, Pro, Turbo, and Cloud, and I'll mention that again and again and again. So that's what Dux Soup is. Let's have a look at the different versions. Pro. So Pro is the lowest priced version of the 3, and it's sort of almost like, you know, almost like your beginner settings. You get your list of prospects, and then you send out connection requests or direct messages or emails. It helps to increase your engagement levels on LinkedIn. You have to be methodical, you need to be in control, and you need to be understanding how it works. And we will go through those options shortly. Turbo, that's a version that's been running now for coming up to 5 years. So Pro's been around for nearly 10 years. Turbo's been around for nearly 5 years. Turbo allows you to build campaigns and enroll prospects to fully automate your lead gen activities. You get full visibility of monitoring actions, and you also have the possibility to integrate with other platforms. Everything's carried out on your local device though. So the new tabs will open as you send messages or whatever it is that you've got in your campaigns. And that's how Turbo works. That's been running for nearly 5 years now. And Cloud, which has been running for just over 2 weeks, allows you to do all of the Turbo stuff, but gives you 24/7 availability by executing everything through in a fully secure virtual environment. Excuse me. If you look at the link there at the bottom, you can go in there. There's a checklist of all the product features there under that URL. Hopefully Adam will stick that into the chat box so that everybody can have a look at that at your convenience. So I was trying to do sort of a bit of brainstorming earlier and working out what instances do people use these different platforms. What we tend to see is that people who are starting out in the world of LinkedIn automation, they like to have Pro because they want to have control and they want to make sure that they're walking through things quite simply. Having said that, you know, we've seen also many starters now using Turbo because it's actually really intuitive, and you can actually set up everything in one go. You build your campaign and then you just enroll people, and then everything just happens. So Pro is it's the simplest version of the 3 versions, insofar as you carry out actions in real time, but the Turbo and the Cloud version give you much greater possibilities with the campaign activities, being able to just queue up and forget about it. With Pro, you need to interact with the product probably most days. You need to go in there and you need to find your list and then set the robot off to go. With Turbo and Cloud, you could, for example, queue up a month's worth of actions and then just leave it. And that's what we're seeing a lot of people doing, especially if they're looking at scaling up, especially if they're looking at, you know, growing things and wanting to, you know, literally hands-off lead generation, create a good list, find a couple of thousand people, enroll them all into a campaign, and then let Dux Soup do the hard yards, as it were, so you can get on with something more productive. Excuse me. So lists, we talked about this already, and Adam's mentioned this already. And why do we always mention this? We harp on about this quite a lot. The importance of this cannot be understated. Whichever Dux Soup plan you're using, or even if you're doing lead generation manually on LinkedIn, how do you find good prospects? The results that you achieve will depend upon the quality of that list that you've defined. The more effort and time you put in here, the greater the chances of success. And also you get the better the result and the increased chances of finding higher quality leads. And when I look back to sort of 3-4 years ago, when you could send, you know, hundreds of invites a day on LinkedIn, actually you know, you could get like a 5–10% acceptance rate, and that was fine because you'd get some numbers and be able to work through. Now LinkedIn have clamped down a lot on the number of connection requests you can send. What you need to do is target better, but by targeting better, the net result is you find better quality leads. Now there are 2 URLs here at the bottom of the page. Both of them are blog posts, which are some of our most read blog posts, most read content. One of them is using LinkedIn lists with Dux Soup, and I will touch on these lists when I do the demo in a minute. All the different lists that you can run Dux Soup against. When you go to a list in LinkedIn, and the Dux Soup icon in the top right-hand corner turns green, that's when you know the Dux Soup's recognize that list as something you can process. And then the one underneath that, the searching and filtering masterclass, that's where you can read all about all the ways to filter your results. So perhaps maybe you're not so familiar with the Boolean search terms. We've got a really clear explanation of that in there. We'll probably be covering this in a webinar in the new year again. It's one we tend to come around to every 15 to 18 months. So we're probably due to do that one again in the new year and talk about searching and filtering, building good quality lists. One of the other things that people forget is you can build your own custom lists. So if you've got another source, or you're using the scan functionality in Dux Soup to capture LinkedIn URLs, you can then put that into a CSV file and upload that into your Dux Soup across all 3 versions. So there are all sorts of lists. I'm not going to go through them all here. I will mention them all in the demo, but they are all mentioned in these blog posts. So do have a look at those blog posts, and hopefully Adam can stick those URLs into the chat box so that everyone can see them. So that's lists. We'll talk further about that when I'm doing the demo in a bit. Your strategy and your actions, these are going to be different depending upon which version of Dux Soup you've got. So with Dux Soup Pro, you have a list of actions that you can get Dux Soup to carry out during an auto visit. And that usually contains a connection request message, or perhaps a direct message to first degree prospects, or it could be an in-mail. You use visit or visit and connect, depending on what you're doing from your drop down list. And that is essentially how you run Dux Soup from Pro. With Turbo and Cloud, we're talking here about the campaign functionality, and then matching up your campaign content to your target group, and then you just enroll your prospects. So your strategy or actions will depend upon which version you're running, but essentially the importance of matching up how you found your list and the content of your campaign or your messaging is still the same. It's still good practice. Match them both up. I think we've got a blog post actually which talks about campaigns. I'll talk about some do's and don'ts of campaigns when I do the demo in a minute as well. So we'll touch on that as well. Excuse me. We will go through this on the monitoring side of things as well. The Dux Dash, we'll talk about that and this is relevant only to Turbo and Cloud. With regards to Pro, it's much more down to you how you then monitor what's going on, and you need to check your outstanding invites, for example, and keep an eye on the people who are accepting your connection requests. But with Turbo and Cloud, that can all happen automatically through the funnel. Through the funnel flow here, you can see then how many people you've enrolled and invited against the campaign, and then the net results of your campaigns and what happens next. And then similarly, we have our integration. So with Turbo and Cloud, which these versions give you access to the API. That means that you can then integrate with HubSpot, Pipedrive, and SharpSpring directly, and those are all configurable via the Dux Dash. But then we also have Make and Zapier integrations available, where any other system which has an integration with Make or Zapier, which are no-code platforms if you're not familiar with them. I was having a conversation with somebody earlier today. Was it earlier today? I think it was. Is it Zapier or Zapier? And apparently I've been reliably informed by somebody who works there that it's Zapier because it makes you happier. So there we go. Right, so what I'm going to demo now is I'm going to talk about Pro. We're going to show you how Pro works. Then we're going to look at Turbo and Cloud, build a campaign, enroll from a list, and then look at the virtual environment setup of the cloud, and then talk about the Dux Dash and the integrations. So let's get out of this slideware. And for anyone, I always say this on my webinars, if anybody on the webinar is not connected to me, please do feel free to reach out. This is me here on LinkedIn. I'm very happy to connect with any users of Dux Soup. Just send me a connection request, mentioned Dux Soup in there. I'm happy to engage with people on the platform, so do feel free to reach out if you haven't done so already. Right, so I've got Dux Soup Pro enabled on here. I can tell that because my Dux Soup icon is red. You see there, I've got in the top right hand corner Dux Soup Professional Edition. So what I would now need to do is find my list of prospects. So let's go and find a list. So of course, one thing we could do, we could just go and carry out a regular search here in LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is okay. So let's do marketing manager. There we go. There we go. It's a little bit slow today. There we go. It always happens when you're doing something live, of course, that the LinkedIn reacts a little slower than usual. There we go. Yeah, it's very slow this afternoon. Oh well. So I go to here a people search, and what I'm going to see in a minute. Now, of course, I would narrow down my search a lot more than this if I was doing this for real and I was wanting to reach out to these people for real. But what we'll see in a moment is in the top right hand corner, when the Dux Soup icon turns green, at that moment, that's Dux Soup indicating to me that it has recognized what's on the page as a list. There we go, at your service. I can now get Dux Soup Pro to carry out my chosen actions against this list. So if I click up here, we can see here I've got two options. I've got visit or visit and connect. I've also got scan. We'll talk about that later if we've got time. But here I can, I could send, for example, a connection request. If I was to now press visit and connect, then each of these people here would then get my message that I've got there, hi _FN_ using that personalization. I noticed that blah, 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 blah. They would then get my connection request. Dux Soup would do all of that here in this tab. I would see it all happening in the bottom right hand corner of my screen. And yeah, it would then follow my rules regarding throttling and safety. Maybe I'll try and, when we get to the Q&A towards the end, I guarantee somebody will ask about safety and numbers. So I'll share the URL of the blog post, which covers everything we know about that. But I think mine's set to currently send about like 30 or 40 invites a day. Dux Soup would now start at the top of the list and it would run through, following my instructions, open each profile in turn and sending that connection request. Now, if this list here happened to be of first degree prospects, let's go there. So I've got first degree prospects here who are meeting this criteria, and maybe I'd like to send all of these people a message using Dux Soup Pro. And this is actually relevant to somebody who I had a call with earlier today. Again, when waiting for the Dux Soup icon to turn green, and it always takes longer when I'm presenting. If I'm not presenting, it happens instantly, but that's there we go. So now it's turned green. So if I wanted to send all of these people an outreach message, I can get Dux Soup to do that as well. And I can do that. I don't want to do visit and connect because I can't send these people a connection request. I would need to use the visit profiles button here. But what actions will I want to have processed during those auto visits? I press on my options here. I've got here then some options that I can enable. So here, for example, I've got a personalized message to go to first degree contacts using regular LinkedIn or Sales Navigator. So there's my message. There we go. There's the message about the Dux Soup Black Friday code. If you're quick, you can make a note of it there as well. It will be shown on the slide later towards the end of the presentation as well. So there we go. So I've got a message here which I could send out to those people. That's enabled. I'm also would maybe perhaps tag those people with a label, so I know that I've mentioned that I've sent those people that message. And yeah, I could now go back to my list here and I could say, right, now just go and visit those profiles. And once again, it would start at the top of the list, following my rules regarding the speed, the tempo, etc., etc. Open each profile in turn and send that message out to those people, adding that label. That label makes it possible for me to trace what I've done. So we talked about there, it's a tag, Dux Black Friday. If I started this now and it started visiting these people, it would give each of these people that tag. I can then later on go in here and search by tag and find the people I've already sent that message to. So maybe I can run again from that list there. Sorry, let's go back to the tag search here. I could then, for example, go in here and after I've run this out for a few days, go back in there, find the people who I've sent that message to and maybe send them another message because I can run Dux Soup from this place as well. One of the things you'd also probably want to do here if you're reaching out to your existing network is say, well, I want to make sure I don't accidentally send out duplicate messages. Very important. So here what I would say, I'm going to tag them when I've sent the message, and then I'm going to make sure that under the skipping rules, I'm going to skip them if they've already got the tag. So we've got that possibility there as well. We have complete control over what Dux Soup will do. Our actions here, we know it'll always be whatever we're doing, whether it's sending a connection request or sending a first degree message, or maybe even an in-mail. We always want to make sure we're matching that up to our target audience and then leaving it to run. So Dux Soup will run if Chrome is open, if the tab remains open. If you minimize it, then Dux Soup will snooze. And that's essentially what Dux Soup Pro will do. There are some other features there we could talk about, which, you know, for example, scanning, etc., etc. And if that questions come up later, then we can also cover those there. Just to mention a few other lists you can run it against. So here we are in regular LinkedIn. If I go to my homepage here, and I will go to, I don't know, let's find a, there we go. I can run Dux Soup, for example, against this list. In a moment, the icon will turn green and I can run Dux Soup against this list here. It's a list of people who've reacted to a post. I could do it against, if I was the owner of a company page, I could run Dux Soup against a list of page followers. I could run it against an alumni list. So for example, again, it's taking a while to turn green, but it would turn green. If I go into, for example, an educational institution, for example, if I go to this one here, and I go to my alumni list here, and I say, okay, well, I'm maybe interested here in people who are, I don't know, engineers. Let's just type in engineer there, and then maybe people who are based in, I don't know, the London area. I can now run my Dux Soup activity against this list here. There we are, the icons turn green. I can run Dux Soup against here. So you can put in all your sorts of different filters here. You can play around with that and add all different filters, but then you can you run your chosen Dux Soup activities against here. And that's Dux Soup Pro, Turbo, or Cloud. So there we are. We've talked about Pro there, and we've covered that quite comprehensively. So now let's move on to Cloud, and you'll have to bear with me 1 second because I'm going to have to change my license key. Let me just grab that in a second.
I was going to ask a quick question. You're changing your license key. Is that because you can only run one particular version of Dux Soup at any one time?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you either have Pro or Turbo or Cloud. You can't have all three, unfortunately. It's a good question, though. Nice one. So now I've got Turbo. I've now set myself up with Dux Soup Turbo license. And we'll notice that now my icon in the top right-hand corner has turned turquoise. So previously it was red and now it's turquoise. And what we'll see now is if I go to, for example, let's go to a Sales Navigator search. And again, what we'll see here in a second is the icon will turn green and I'll get an "at your service" button, and it pops up in a second. And what we should see now is our new option now is to enroll profiles into a campaign. And we'll also see a widget appear in a second. There we go. There's the widget as well. So I've now got a couple of ways that I can enroll people into campaigns. I can see all my different campaigns here. And I can enroll prospects into my campaign either one at a time here at the side or in bulk from the top. I can press enroll profiles and I can select whichever campaign I want and then decide how many people I want to put in there. But what does a campaign look like? So remember, this is applicable for both Turbo and the Cloud Edition. If I click on my Dux Soup icon now and I go down to my Dux Dash, here on the left-hand side, we've got all of our different options now that have been unlocked now that we've got our Turbo license enabled. If I go to my drip campaigns here and one I prepared earlier, there we are, 28th of November webinar. Is 28th today? Yes, it is. There we go. So I've got here a very simple campaign which I would just like write in order to demonstrate this. I've got here, I'm starting my campaign with an auto visit. You could start your a lot of people will start their campaign with a connection request, but you could put an auto visit in there, or you could put maybe a follow action. Maybe you put a follow action in there first. basically what you're doing is you're trying to get your name appear on people's notifications, and hopefully they'll at least visit you back. The idea with this is to stimulate interest in your profile and get people to engage with you. So here we are. I've got my my connection request message. I wrote this regarding a penetration testing group, cybersecurity group on LinkedIn. There's my connection request message. And then I'm going to send a follow-up message. I'll probably send that 10 days later. I'll probably send that maybe 2 days later. There we go. Let's change that to 2 days. And then I've got another follow-up message and then a further follow-up message due to go. Now, as you can see here, we can customize our messages with the _FN, etc. I can also add other actions in here. So maybe if I've got a follow-up message there, maybe then later on I'm going to just carry out an auto visit, get my name to appear in their notifications again. All of these things are designed to get my name appearing in their notifications. And the thing to remember is if somebody replies to you, this campaign goes on hold. So for example, here in follow-up 2, I'm asking a question. Maybe they've answered that question then. That's great. I've then into a direct conversation with them. Dux Soup will then pause the campaign. They won't get follow-up number 3 because I'm now in a direct conversation with them, and we'll look at that when we come to the monitoring of the campaigns in a minute. But if you're wanting to maybe safeguard and give yourself the best chance of getting an interaction, you're going to send another message here as well. They're only going to get this message if they've not replied to you. These are basically just giving you extra opportunities for your name to appear in their notifications in their mailbox. Some do's and don'ts. Do not send multiple messages inside a week. 1 or 2 is fine at the start, but any more than that, you're probably going to get flagged for spamming people. I had a user fairly recently who was sending 4 or 5 messages in 1 week after people had accepted and were wondering why that messages 4 and 5 weren't going, and it's because they were being blocked and being disconnected from. You have to make this look as real as possible in order to give yourself the best chance of positive engagement. Actually, best chance of any engagement, because if somebody says thanks but no thanks, that's great. That's an engagement which gives you clarity as to the way forward. So be aware of the tempo that you're sending out these messages at. It's a very, very important thing to remember that if you send follow-up message after 1 day and then another message after 1 day and another message after 1 day, it looks desperate and automated and probably far too salesy. So give people time to digest the information that you're sending to them. This, of course, is a campaign designed to grow my network. I could also write a campaign for first-degree prospects, and in which case the Dux Soup would just ignore the connection request and just send the follow-up messages. So how do I put people into my campaign? Well, let's do it, shall we? Because I'm going to be starting with a follow rather than anything else. So there we are. I've got my campaign here. It's November the 28th. There we are. We'll save that. Let's go back to a search result. There we go. So this is a group of people that I might want to enroll into my campaign. I can click up here. I can press Enroll Profiles, and then I'm going to select whichever campaign I want. So we'll take November the 28th. And how many people do I want to put in there? So I'm going to say here, well, maybe I'm going to put in, I don't know, 20 people. Press OK. And what will happen now is Dux Soup will go from the top of the page and it will enroll the first 20 people from this list that have not gone into this campaign before. So for example, if I'm, if I've got a list, I'm not sure who's gone into that campaign, doesn't matter. Dux Soup will know if they've already gone into that campaign. You can't enroll somebody into the same campaign twice. So it's a really good safeguard there to enable you to see what's happening there. So now this is Dux Soup doing this. Look, I'm not using my hands. This is now Dux Soup going through and enrolling these people into this campaign accordingly, and queuing up the actions that I've had in that campaign. I only have to keep this tab open now until this enrollment action is finished, and then everything else is going to happen. Dux Soup opening new tabs if I'm using Dux Soup Turbo. What I'm going to do now though is I'm going to come out of here. Oh, there you go. See, it's now started already. So it's starting to open those profiles that were already there. What I'm going to do while it's doing that is I'm going to upgrade my account now to cloud so we can then see how cloud looks in this instance. Let me just stick my cloud license key in here. Hopefully that's all going to work. we go, it's now updating my license. And what we should see in a second is maybe that's the wrong key. Have I put the wrong key in? No, I haven't. That's all right. I've got the right key in there. I think what I need to do is I need to go back in here, and I just need to reload my configuration. And what we should see now is I've got the cloud edition. So there we are. I've now got this. It's now sort of like a raspberry color icon. And what we can see now is if I go back into, where were we? Here. So we go back into my Dux dash. What we'll see now is I've got here this cloud monitor. So the cloud monitor is now, it's starting up my session. It's creating a virtual environment for my LinkedIn session. And what that means is that all of the actions that I've now got to be executed. So if I go into my queued activity here and we look at my campaign from today, my 28th of November, all of these actions here, which I just queued up, are now going to get executed in the cloud environment. So here in my cloud monitor, obviously there, logging in. In a second, it will tell me that it's actually logged in. This is a one-time action. Once I've done it, as long as I don't log out from LinkedIn, then this is going to then just stay there. It's going to tick away. But once it's logged in, there we are. I'm now logged in under the cloud monitor. What we'll see now is under my queued activity. Let's go back to that. There we go. That's our queued activity here. And let's just have a look and see what we've got here. What we'll see in a minute is it's going to start to execute some of these actions. So Chi and then Darina will get visited or follow them. And then what we'll see is we'll see the connection requests that I've got queued up to go after that I've done this follow. That will all happen now in the cloud environment, seamlessly being executed. It's one of those things, you know, it's difficult to show you that because it's happening virtually. I'm not in control of it, but it will happen. And those actions will get performed accordingly. We can turn our campaigns on and off. So currently you see I've got this, let's go back down here. So we've got my 28th of November one that is on. We can turn campaigns on and off if we require. We can run as many campaigns in parallel as we like. And it's purely a case of making sure that you're feeding the machine enough food for it to process. So that's how we can set up our three platforms. We can now do exactly the same as we did with Turbo if we want to enroll some prospects. If we go back to my search result here, there we go. I've enrolled 20 people from this list already. If I go in here and I say, right, enroll profiles again, and I say this is the campaign I want to do, and I want to enroll another 20 people, it's going to skip past the first 20 because it's already enrolled them, and then it's going to find the next 20. So let's watch that do that a second, and then we'll have a look at the way that we monitor our campaigns as well. So let's just watch this go through the process of skipping those people I've already enrolled. Again, taking a bit longer because we're watching it. Yeah, what it'll do is it'll skip past the first, there we go. So previously enrolled into the target campaign. In a second, we'll get down to the bottom of the page and it'll start to enroll the few people who are at the bottom there of this page. There we are, it's finding some people at the bottom. And what we'll see then here under our queued activity, looking at this campaign, so there we are, we'll now see we've got a load more actions all queued up. There we go. And we'll see here, for example, there's Chi. So there's the connection request queued up for that person to go in in a few days' time. Yeah, 5 days' time is what I think what I had in my campaign there. So as it completes the follow activity, then it's going to then queue up the next action accordingly. So if we now go to our funnel flow here, our funnel flow is where we can go to check out the progress of all our campaigns. And at the moment, of course, for this one, we'd only see the people I've enrolled. We'd see here the list of people that I've enrolled into that campaign. But if I go to a campaign where I've maybe got a bit more information, let's go to this well-used one, which I think I've shown many times during these webinars. Here we go under this particular test that I did earlier in the year. What we should see in a second, I've enrolled like 1,300 people into this particular campaign, and it's invited 1,100 or so, I think it is. There we go. 525 have accepted. So this here, I can extract all of this data here. I can use the copy or copy all. I can stick it all into a spreadsheet if I want to. The most important thing, I think, on this particular page is the responded block. The people who've replied to you, those are the people who've actually engaged with you in some way. They've sent you a message. What we can see here, for example, this gentleman, there's my connection request, there's the acceptance, and there's the message back. So now I have some choices to make as to what happens next. I can continue the campaign. It's on hold because he's replied, but maybe I've got other messages here I want him to get. I could qualify him in, qualify him out, depending on what your personal process is. I could unenroll him from the campaign if he's told me to go away and leave him alone. Or indeed, I could switch him to another campaign, i.e. queuing up whatever follow-up messages I've got there in whatever other campaign I've got. Maybe he's asked a question, a regularly asked question, and I've got some more campaign messages that could go to that person there. So this way we've got complete control and visibility of the progress of our campaigns. This becomes even more important within the cloud version because nothing's happening here on locally. We can see the progress here, how many invites have been sent out, etc., etc. If we go down here to our queued activity again, what we should see now is hopefully some more people have been invited or have been followed, and I've got some more connection requests queued up. So there's another one there that's now queued up, and that will now just keep churning away following my rules. Just conscious of time, and I want to give people a chance to ask questions very quickly. Under our CRM connections, and this is the same for both Turbo and Cloud, we can go into our CRM connections here and we can enable our chosen options here under Pipedrive, under HubSpot, or under SharpSpring, which profiles make it into our CRM. So you can see here, I've got create and update people from connected profiles. I'm only interested in first degree prospects coming into my CRM. There may be other criteria that you have, and we're always looking at ways that we can refine and improve this. But essentially what I'm doing here is anybody who accepts a connection request from me or becomes a first degree connection, I'm asking Dux Soup to then update the contact after they've connected. And by doing that update, I'm then having all of their data from LinkedIn, or as much as we're gathering, putting it into my Pipedrive or HubSpot environment or SharpSpring environment. So I can then see all of that information and manage those people from within our CRM. I can also trigger actions from within Pipedrive and HubSpot, so I can message people in LinkedIn from there using the Dux Soup integration, or indeed enroll them into campaigns as well. That's probably for another webinar, I think, to be able to cover all of that in detail. We also have our integrations with Zapier and Make, and again, we'll be covering those in more detail in the new year. It's something that we've covered quite a lot, and you can always go to our Dux Soup homepage. If we go here, you go to the webinars here, you can find the previous webinars that we've used. We've covered HubSpot, Pipedrive, Zapier, Make. As well as that, we have our blog posts here. In anticipation of one of our very frequently asked questions, I'm going to copy this URL straight away, and I'm going to stick it straight into the chat for everybody so that they can see that one immediately. There you go. This article, this Using LinkedIn Automation Safely article, is based upon Dux Soup running for 10 years. So everything we know about keeping your account safe on LinkedIn is in here. One thing I'm seeing a lot of at the moment is people running free LinkedIn accounts, getting lots of warnings from LinkedIn. LinkedIn seem to be clamping down very much on free users of the platform who are using it for commercial purposes. So be aware of that and do explore the paid versions. There are many, many different paid versions of LinkedIn. And what we're seeing is even if you go onto the absolute cheapest version, you're able to do a lot more than if you're running a free version. So be aware of that as well. Let's pop back to the slides. So we have talked about how you carry out actions against the listing pro. We've talked about Turbo and Cloud, building a campaign and enrolling from a list. We've touched upon how to set up those campaigns. We've shown the setup of virtual environment in Cloud, and we've touched on the Dux Dash and the integrations. There is so much more here. I can't cover it all in one webinar, but hopefully this gives you a flavor as to what all of the three variants give you, to see what's most applicable for you. I was talking to somebody earlier today, and hopefully she won't mind me mentioning this. Her requirement was very clear. She wanted to just send out a simple message to all of her existing contacts. So my recommendation was very much to use Pro, because that's all she wanted to use it for. She said she's going to start with Pro. We went through how to do that, and we went through the process like I did just then with sending a message, tagging, and making sure you skip them if you already tagged them. That was her requirement. It's a very simple action, and hopefully Pro can meet her requirements. Similarly, I spoke to somebody yesterday who's got a team of people. They all want to be using campaigns. They want to share their campaigns across the team. You can do that with Turbo and Cloud. So we're going through all of the details around that as well. So there's something for everybody there in all these three versions. So hopefully that's giving you a good insight into all of those three different flavors. Adam, I'm going to come to you for questions in a second, but while you're preparing that and turning on your microphone, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be covering something we did last year: how to send seasonal greetings to your LinkedIn prospects and your LinkedIn connections. Yeah, just doing a fun webinar. There's a few quiz questions in there as well, with a few prizes, I think, along the way. And no offense, Adam, but I think Joe will be back for that one. And also, just to say, we've got our caps, G2 caps. And there's the code for Black Friday as well, valid until the end of November. Adam, do you want to go to the questions? And he's there, he's got his camera working.
Hello, here I am. So we've had a couple of questions about integrations with CRM. Now, I know you talked about it being quite a big subject. The one question we've had is, with CRM, can we add leads with phone numbers and emails from LinkedIn?
So, wrong screen. There we go. So let's just take Pipedrive as an example. Let's hope I'm still logged in. I think I am, and hopefully you can still see my screen.
Yeah.
So what Dux Soup will do for you is it'll actually create contacts in your CRM. It won't create leads. It's up to you what you do with your process based upon what information you get. But here under the contacts, what you can see here is, hopefully, there we go. These are my most recently added contacts, or most recently updated contacts from people I've visited recently. And what we can see here is that, let's not share too much data, there we go. We can see here, I've got email addresses. If they're visible in LinkedIn, they will be brought across. You can also get telephone numbers as well. Dux Soup will bring that information across if it's visible and available. If it's not there, then it can't come across. But what we do is basically Dux Soup creates some new fields in the CRM. So in this case, with Pipedrive, HubSpot, and SharpSpring, it creates some new fields: the LinkedIn ID, the LinkedIn URL, etc. LinkedIn, I can't remember what else it is. Yeah, LinkedIn job title, that kind of stuff. So you see all of that information coming in, and once that information's there, that means that you can actually then, so let's just select a few people here. The great thing is that then means that we can then enroll or message contacts from here within the CRM. That's the beauty of our direct integrations. You can integrate with other things. So for example, I was talking to somebody earlier today who is using Salesforce. And with Salesforce, you'd have to do it via Zapier, for example. We've got a blog post which walks through exactly how to do that, how to create some new fields. Because once you've got those new fields, it opens up loads of possibilities for triggering actions as well. So yeah, those are all the sorts of bits and pieces to think about if you're looking at integrating a CRM. So our direct ones at the moment: SharpSpring, Pipedrive, and HubSpot. We're always looking at more in the future. I think we've got a couple which we're talking about at the moment, which, whether that's a CRM or an ATS, we'll have to wait and see. But it'd be great to see if we can get some more platforms there. Our primary focus in the last couple of months has been getting the cloud version available, because that's been really requested by a lot of users. So yeah, hopefully next year we'll be looking at some more direct integrations as well.
So just picking up on that, have you come across Capsule CRM before?
Sorry, say that again.
Capsule, C-A-P-S-U-L-E.
Capsule, that's a new one on me. Okay, by my response, I think you can tell I haven't.
I guess the same thing would apply as to what you said earlier in the webinar, that if it supports Zapier or a make.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, okay. I'll have a look after the webinar. I'll look to see if Zapier is. I mean, Zapier's got support. Thousands of different platforms are on Zapier or have integrated with Zapier. From there's an endless list. Something as simple as a Google Sheet all the way through to the most complex CRMs, Go High Level, all that kind of stuff. Zoho, a million and one almost.
As you mentioned, we always have a question about staying safe on LinkedIn. What is your current advice about how many contact requests, I guess that's connection requests, that you can send each day without LinkedIn blocking your account?
I'm going to counter that question with no. I'm not going to play politician and counter the question with lots and lots of questions. It depends. If you've got a free account or a paid account, I'll tell you what's the easier way to do this. This one here. There we are. There's our list of questions back to the person concerned. This is the stuff that will influence your numbers. How big is your first degree network? Have you got a paid account or a free account? How many outstanding invites have you got? Are you withdrawing invites after a certain time? What's your conversion rate? What percentage of people who are accepting your connection requests? Other lead generation activities on LinkedIn which are influencing your social selling index. How high is your social selling index? Your social selling index on LinkedIn is one of those things that a lot of people forget about, but it influences how much you can do. If you don't know what I'm talking about with regards to social selling index, let's just show you very quickly. Here under your, actually you can access this whether you've got a free account or a paid account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that URL there into the chat. And you can do that.
SSI is really interesting, Giles. I mean, I've seen some people who are very active on LinkedIn, who are posting content every day, who interact and engage with other people's content, and they have quite high SSI. I don't personally use LinkedIn a huge amount, so my SSI always hovers around sort of the mid-40s. But I think that, as you say, that's partly what will govern what activity level you can safely do on LinkedIn.
It will also govern how high up the search results you come. So the higher your SSI, if somebody's looking for somebody, looking for people which match your criteria, the higher up that search result you'll come. So the more chance you've got of being seen as well. So all of these things here will influence however many connection requests you can send out. Personally, I always recommend starting low at sort of 25 or 30, and then never increment more than by 5 a day per week. So if you're at 25 now, next week go to 30, the week after go to 35, the week after that go to 40. Don't do it any quicker than that, because that will just raise red flags to LinkedIn. If you try and go too quickly, then you end up getting a slap on the wrists. Dux Soup will recognize when you get that warning, and it will pause its action accordingly. I did, as I've said this is an anecdote which I've told many times this year. I did a test earlier this year. I started in January at 25 requests a day, and by the middle of March I was sending 65 requests a day. I was getting a 45% acceptance rate. I got one warning from LinkedIn on the 10th of February which said, you're out of invites for now, please try again next week. I went down by five a day per week, by 5 connection requests a day, and then I got no more warnings at all, and I ran it all the way through February and March. So as long as you do it slowly, then you'll find that you can do lots. It also massively helps, as I said earlier, if you've got a paid LinkedIn account. If you're running free LinkedIn, the chances of you doing this at scale seem to be diminishing rapidly.
Yeah, I know somebody who is getting warnings with actually one of the paid LinkedIn plans, but he's spending 4 or 5 hours a day on LinkedIn, and he's doing it all manually, and he's being, I think they're trying to direct him to an upsell program. Okay, so next question. Can you summarize what is the main difference between Turbo and Cloud?
Turbo and Cloud. With Turbo, you need to keep your computer on if you want actions carried out. With Cloud, you can enroll prospects and then turn your computer off and go on holiday. No, you can then, it's not reliant upon your computer being on like we've got at the moment. So let's go back to my Dux Dash a second and let's have a look at my queued activity. What we'll see now, if I look at my queued activity and I refresh this, we'll see here, there we go. All of these people have now, I'm now following them, and I've not seen any action performed here on my local laptop or my local device. It's all happened in the cloud. I could now turn off my computer and all of this will continue to happen. So I could then just periodically check back into my Dux Dash to see that I've still got stuff in the queue to be processed. And then, yeah, that's the primary difference. It gives you simplicity of outreach insofar as you can just literally build your campaigns, you enroll people, and then you can forget about it. With Turbo, your computer needs to be on, and you will see periodically new tabs opening as Dux Soup carries out your actions. And if you close Chrome, then it will not carry out any actions. It'll snooze. In order for Dux Soup to mimic those interactions on the website, the browser has to remain open.
So with cloud, if I'm right, Giles, the only way that cloud would be stopped is if you physically logged out. So if you selected log out on your LinkedIn profile, that would stop the cloud version from working. But otherwise, you can switch your laptop off, put it away, put it to hibernate, close down browser windows. That restriction is lifted with cloud. And obviously, being a hosted solution, it's on our infrastructure, so it's our investment to maintain that working at peak efficiency for all of our users.
Absolutely. I mean, you can of course turn your campaigns off. You can, it doesn't have to be working all the time. There may be times when you want to prioritize one campaign over another, and so you maybe turn a campaign off or something. But you can also determine as well through the planner here the hours you're happy for it to work. So if maybe you're working in one part of the world and you're targeting people in a separate part of the world, you can determine the hours that Dux Soup will be active here as well. That's the same with all three versions, Pro, Turbo, and Cloud, because it may be that whilst you're using Cloud, you don't want it to be active 24/7. You want it to be working overnight when you're, if you see what I mean. So yeah, so you have complete control over when actual messages are being sent out as well there.
Okay, next question, which I think I can answer. In Pro, what is the action being taken with visit only? And my understanding is that it is literally going to just visit those profiles that you have told it to look at. And the main reason you might want to do this is people have natural curiosity. If someone has visited my profile and I see that when I log into LinkedIn, if I don't know that person, quite often I'll go and look at that person's profile. And this was used by, I interviewed one of our customers, David Duccini at Silicon Prairie, and he said he spent the entire first year of his time using Dux Soup, just using Dux Soup to visit profiles. And that helped to increase his network. I think the stats were from 5,000 to 9,000 connections just through visiting, because the natural reaction is somebody visits your profile, you'll go back and visit theirs, and that was actually generating people to send him connection requests. Anything I've missed on that, Giles?
Yeah, so the one thing I'd say is, I've just switched my license back to the Pro license, and I now need to wait for the icon to turn green, of course. Yeah, visit only, yes, you can do that, absolutely. It may be that there we go. I was waiting for that to happen. So I can do visit or visit and connect. Visit and connect is, of course, sending a connection request. During an auto visit, though, remember, you can have any of these actions here being executed as well. So, for example, you could be following profiles. You could auto visit and follow. You could auto visit and save the profile as a PDF, maybe. You could auto visit and tag them with maybe job title that you've searched for. So you can have Dux Soup execute any of these actions here during an auto visit. So yeah, as Adam said there, depending on the people you're visiting, they'll get notifications that you've visited them. I know that if I go and visit 100 people from certain, in certain industries or certain groups, for example, I am likely to get a bunch of visits back, and I may even get some connection requests back. I must admit, I've not tested this one recently, but certainly in the past, when I used to visit 100 people from the lead generation or growth hacking discussion group, I would invariably get an 8% connection request return. Now that's a very specific group, it's growth hackers, they've got certain interests. So, getting sort of, an 8% invite sending response is really quite good. Very easy way to grow your network, but it's not necessarily for everybody. People want to have specific targeting, and that's really important as well.
And just an extension to that, how is Visit different to Visit and Connect? What is being asked of the target name on the list?
So Visit and Connect, of course, is sending a connection request. So yeah, if I was to send Visit and Connect here without a message, for example, Dux Soup would visit the person at the top of the list and would send a connection request. If I did that one there, it would just literally open the profile and then close the profile. They'll get a notification that I visited them.
Next question, in terms of where the message is coming from, are the user profiles typically sales personnel, i.e. can I as a marketing person set it up so that the messages come from someone else's profile, for example, one of my customer success colleagues?
No, so basically every LinkedIn profile requires a Dux Soup license, and Dux Soup will basically perform the actions on behalf of that LinkedIn profile. So you can't do it sort of like on behalf of. You can't send messages on behalf of somebody else. You can't send messages on behalf of a company. Whichever LinkedIn account you're logged into is the LinkedIn account that Dux Soup will perform the actions from.
But we have people who are offering, say, done for you services, whereby they will run multiple LinkedIn accounts for their clients. And again, I think that's covered in the Silicon Prairie case study I mentioned, which is available on our website. They're running, I think last count it was 16 or 17 different client profiles, each of which is running in its own separate environment. And all of that activity appears to be coming from that particular person. It's all compartmentalized.
Yeah. What we see is, it's unfortunately the way of the world. The more senior the person, or the more senior looking the job title the message comes from, the greater the response they get, greater response rate they get. It's just the way of the world. So if you are the business owner, make that clear. If you're senior within that business, make sure that's clear in your profile, because yeah, the way that people are with their egos, and oh look, I've got the attention of a CEO or whatever. Yeah, you use that to your advantage.
So we've had a question, do you have an agency white label version?
There is a pro white label version, and I believe aspects of Turbo have been white labeled, but we can always discuss that with Will, who is the owner and developer of Dux Soup. Yeah, if we need to discuss white labeling, then we're always open to discussions there, absolutely.
Just to follow up on the earlier question about Capsule CRM, the lady involved has had a look at Zapier, and it's given me the option to update Dux Soup profiles with new or updated contacts from Capsule. I guess the integration can be achieved that way. Next question, do you do training and sample connection and campaign messages that convert? Also, how personalized can we make each message?
We do training. If you need training or if you need support, then just reach out to our support team, and they will point you into the right direction as to how to book anything that you want to have from a training perspective. What we're doing now is we're giving free booster or training sessions to our users who've got multiple licenses. So those who've got multiple seats, we're providing that as a supplementary service. But if you've got, if you're on your own, you're looking for assistance, then you can look here. We've also got a live chat option with our support team here on the right-hand side. And if you need any training or assistance, then we can set that up through our support team. Regarding customization of messages, there are all sorts of possibilities, and I've now changed to a pro version. So, but we can see here, for example, we've got different markers here that we can use to customize messages. There's all sorts of possibilities there. The great thing with Turbo and with Cloud is you can build as many campaigns as you like. So if you've got different groups of people who are based in different locations in different industries with different levels of seniority, I have seen somebody who had, honestly, hand on heart, 57 different campaigns that they enrolled, all of their different campaigns with different levels of personalization, and they were enrolling maybe 50 or 100 people into each of those campaigns over a period of time. So that gives you endless possibilities.
how many profiles can be saved as a PDF per day or month?
Oh, wow, that's a question I've never had before. Purely, I would suggest how much memory do you have on your computer, and how many profiles can you open per day or per month or per week. Now, if you've got a paid LinkedIn account, and we'll go to the throttling page here, I might zoom in a fraction so it might be easier to see. So here, for example, my daily limits here, I'm allowing myself to visit up to 500 profiles a day because I've got a Sales Navigator profile. So I could, for example, go and visit 500 profiles in regular LinkedIn per day and save them as PDFs if I wanted to. Again, the limiting factor would be just the number of profiles I'm visiting, and how much memory, how much space, how much hard disk space I've got on my laptop. It's, a slightly less relevant answer there, but yeah, it's something that some people like to use that PDF side of things. Some people prefer to make sure that they are actually capturing. So here I see I've got my 3,142 there, making sure that they are actually here under the browser capturing the profile data. If you make sure that this is ticked here, record profile data, anything that happens then you can then actually, let's go back to our list here, we can then go in here and we can actually download that data. So here in a second, I can now download my visit data, and I can download that data then in the CSV format. Whether you want to have it in PDF format, that's up to you. If you want to have it in CSV format, all of that same data is available there.
Brilliant, that's it for the questions, Giles, thank you.
No problems at all. My voice is just about hung on, but I think I might need a hot lemon or something after this. Excuse me. Right, just a reminder, in 2 weeks' time we'll do our festive greetings and little fun quiz for the end of the year, as we wind up towards the end of the year. Our caps, go to G2, give us a review, and we'll follow up accordingly. Don't forget the code, and our beautiful, lovely raspberry coloured or slightly burgundy, I'm not sure, it's the same colour as your jumper, I think, Adam. And new caps there to help celebrate and recognise the release of the Cloud Edition, as I said earlier. If you're looking to book calls, do reach out to our support team, because depending on what license you've got, etc., booster or technical calls you can book, but always reach out to the support team first to see what you're eligible for. And that's everything from me. I think just about managed to hang on, and hopefully my voice wasn't too annoying for everybody.
No, brilliant. Thank you, Giles. Thank you for persisting. I know you were feeling pretty rough the last few days. I've really enjoyed listening to today's webinar, hearing that, from a fresh perspective, the differences between Pro, Turbo, and especially Cloud being our latest version. So all that remains to say is thank you very much for joining us. If you have questions, as Giles said, just ping us through the website. Very easy to get in touch with us via support if there are any other questions that you suddenly think of as soon as the webinar's finished. We did have one last question, which was, is this session replay going to be posted out? Yes, it can take up to sort of 4 or 5 hours. I'm not sure if I have one more question coming. Just bear with me a second.
No problem.
Now I can't see the question. If there was any further questions, I will make sure we follow up with people individually.
Yeah, we've got the email address there on screen there, info@dux-soup.com. So that will go straight to our support team who are checking out all of those questions coming in. But thank you everybody for joining us, and I will speak to you again in 2 weeks. And I think Adam will be handing the baton back to Joe.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone. Bye now.
Thanks everyone. Bye bye.